Hey there everyone, Aaron Spalsbury here at 3X Logic. Today I'm going to be walking you through the web browser interface on both the outdoor box camera as well as the outdoor turret, as both of these interfaces are exactly the same, and really walk you through how to set up some of the video analytics on this so that you could use this in a third-party capacity, meaning having it connected to someone else's DVR and not a 3X Logic unit. And it does work that way. And in fact, I'll walk you through all of these steps. The first thing you're going to want to do is jump over to our software center and go down into the Visual Utilities and download the VISIX IP Setup Utility. Go ahead and download this, install it onto your PC, and when it opens up, it's going to look exactly like this. The first thing you're probably going to see is right here, it says, hey, cannot find a visual.exe file. That, of course, is because it's looking for one of our DVRs. I'm just doing this on a laptop, so it says, hey, it's not there, therefore I can't save the settings to a DVR because there's simply not one connected. However, I do want to detect all of my devices, so I'll hit Detect Online Devices. This will look at whatever your connections are that you have on this PC that you've installed this utility. And in this case, I've got both my Ethernet as well as my Wi-Fi, and it's usually a good idea to write down the IP address of the network you have the camera connected to and what your laptop or PC is that you're connecting this to, because we are going to want to match that on the very next step here. So then go ahead and hit OK. Once you've done that, it'll then show you all of the cameras that are on this particular network. Now mine, I've gone ahead and changed my IP address to match my IP scheme. However, if yours is brand new out of the box, it'll probably say something like 10.0. something. And in that case, you're going to want to come down here and hit Change IP Address. The first three sets of digits do need to match your existing network, with the last one being whatever it is that you're wanting to set the camera to. Same thing on subnet here. You're going to want the first three series to be 255s, the last one to be a 0, so obviously it can find that particular camera. But the default gateway you also want to match all the way down to, I usually select 100, but this is going to be the gateway that the camera uses to connect. The DNS service, I actually changed mine over to all 8s here, but I believe the default is all 1.1. You can leave it that way. The last thing that you definitely want to put in here is, of course, the username and the password for that camera. Whether it be the default or something you've changed it to, if you're repurposing this camera, you have to have that in there, obviously, to connect to the camera, and then, of course, hit Save IP Address. You can see mine has successfully saved there, so I'll simply hit OK. The next thing we need to do is just hit the Next button. This will then establish a connection to that particular camera. It'll show you the model number, the firmware version, and you could even come in here and write down that IP address, or just simply punch that IP address into your web browser and log in directly, or we created a shortcut here just under the Web Settings button. So I'm going to go ahead and click that. Now, you may notice here, it does ask you for a username and password. Well, of course, you're logging directly into the camera. I've already done this on this one, so mine is pre-populated. Yours, if it's brand new, would be blank. You need to punch in the username and password again, and then, of course, your browser will prompt you to save it if you want to save it or not. So in this case, I'll go ahead and hit Sign In. Now I'm looking at a preview of this camera, and we are, in fact, done with this camera setup utility, so I'll go ahead and close that. Now this is when you want to go in and point and shoot the camera in the direction that you're looking for. You also want to go through all of the auto zoom functionality, all of the autofocus, or even manual focus if you want to turn the autofocus off, or even adjust the camera speaker volume. You can always come back and change this later, but you do need the camera to be pointing in the right area and focused so that we can set up the video analytics. The next step is we're going to jump into the setup of this particular camera. Now, this is where literally everything inside this camera is at. Your multiple streams, if you want to change resolutions on any of these streams, you can certainly do that. Primarily, we use stream 1, but right out of the gate, guys, if you want to change your frame rates, this is where all of that is done. However, since we're strictly talking about setting up analytics for like a third-party NVR, I'm going to jump straight into that. That is going to be down here under VCA. The first thing you're going to want to do is make sure that it is enabled. So go ahead and go under Enable there, and you will see, is it enabled? If it's not, turn it on. That way you can come down here and set up what tracker engine you want to use. Well, in this case, I do want to have an intrusion detection, or do I want to have just simply a counting line? If we're using this perhaps in retail, we want to count people. Even if we want to do vehicles, obviously you can select this to whatever it is that you're looking to accomplish. The next step is going to be to go down to the rules here. Now this is where we add these rules for these various video analytics. So I'm going to come down here and hit the Add button. And I got a bunch of things that I can choose here. What type of rule do I want to set up? Well, in this case, I just simply want to know if a person or a vehicle enters into a particular area. So that would just simply be a presence polygon. You can grab this, move it around, whatever you want to do. You can even grab the little red corners, move them around. If you want more nodes, you can click the gray ones, and this will obviously add multiple nodes to it. You can make this any shape or size that you want. And in fact, you can even repeat this process by doing multiple zones here. But for now, we're going to work on just this one. So I've got this zone set up. Well, what is it that I'm looking for? Well, I'm looking for, all of these: person, car, truck, forklift, etc. I doubt I'll see a boat, but I'm going to leave that selected nonetheless. And do I want this on a schedule? By default, the schedule is none, meaning it's going to work all the time. If you do want to have this only trigger perhaps after hours or during certain hours, you would want to come over here to the Schedules tab and actually enable those particular schedules. But in this case, I need to tell it what I want it to do when something goes into this red area here. Well, I want to trigger an output relay to my DVR because it's a third-party DVR. So I'm going to physically connect that digital output over to my DVR, and now I've got it to where anytime someone comes into this or a person walks in here, I'm now triggering that third party. If you'll notice, I've also got color LEDs in here. I can have it just turn on red. Do I want it to be solid or strobing, or do I want it to oscillate back and forth between red and blue? That one is, of course, the last selection down here, and you'll notice that's the only option. It doesn't give you any other option other than back and forth, red and blue. Do I want it to play a particular sound? Well, I might. I also have the ability of adjusting that volume right here. Do I want it to be continuous? Do I want it to repeat itself after a certain amount of a delay? This is where you're going to be turning all of that on or off based off of what type of action that you want it to do. Now, what sound do I want it to play? Well, I have mine. I've got a couple loaded inside of here, but let's say, for instance, I wanted it to do the text-to-speech function. I want to program in what it says, or perhaps I want to load a WAV file of my own voice recording. That is done over here under sound. Over here, you can come in here and give it a title, whatever you want it to be. Let's say today, whatever that might be. You can even punch that in here and say, hello, I see you, something like that, and then hit create. This will then create that sound and store this inside the camera so that you can then select it inside of that drop down. So if anybody walks into that particular area, now I have it. And you'll notice I've got it listed right here now. Now, if I do want to come in here and test this guy off, I can say play. I know if we want to play on web or play it on the camera, we can do
hello, I see you.
I don't know if you guys could hear that, but I did play that sound through the speakers on the camera itself. You can do a number of different things. Even if you said, hey, I want to have a WAV file, I can select WAV file inside of here, load up whatever it is that I want to do. But the nice thing is the analytic is entirely set up. If I wanted to go back and add more zones, I can do that. Just make sure you're always hitting save every time you save or enable a new zone in there so that it does get stored inside the camera. It is a machine learning camera. It will automatically do all of the detections that we were looking at, the people, the vehicles, without any additional setup from you. But that's really all that it takes to do this, guys. I hope you appreciate this quick little tutorial. I thought this would be a good and kind of fun one to make. But guys, thanks for watching today. We'll see you on the next video.